Warzone Weekend. Paris Legion get a dub. Remember last week we were talking about how we barely talk about Paris? Now we have a reason. Now we got a reason.
In a house.
Oh, it was hilarious. You know what? Listen, fine. They camped the whole game. They camped the whole game. They found a house. They were within the safe zone the whole time. But you know what? They won the $10,000.
No, you are pro players. Grow a pair and go fight someone. Don't just sit in a house. Ugh.
Your pro players earn money however you can, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, but they just threw their dignity out the window with it. Like,
whatever.
I do not approve.
My dignity is definitely worth $10,000. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Just hand me the check. Thank you. I will happily sell my soul and camp in a house and make dinner and throw on Netflix. I'll be fine. All right? Watch those safe zones get smaller and smaller and then just pick up.
I will RPG you, Arda. I will be toxic back. I will RPG you. Great.
Yeah, see, Thomas, not the tank engine. Paris can't hear you over their paid rent.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
We're all
okay.
Like, strapped for cash right now.
So look at how excited Luca and Denson Kismet. You did nothing. You did nothing. Do not celebrate.
Luca had a good weekend, okay? I'll defend him because he had a great weekend, even not camping in Warzone.
Okay, so let's dissect Warzone Weekend in general. So it was a pre-recorded event. It was nicely edited. Yeah. But after watching it, Emily, do you want more? Is this something that you're going to look forward to? Was it a nice to have? Is it a need to have? Do you care if it comes back?
I mean, I don't care, but I'm not the viewer that you need to worry about, right? Because I'm going to be watching every weekend regardless. The question for me is how invested were people in watching the stream during that time? And also, like, how much fun did players have with it? Because I mean, I think the big thing that came out of it was just what we were talking about, right? Like, how dare Paris camp and then win the entire thing. I think, like, the big thing about pairing Warzone with the CDL is, A, make sure the players are having fun at something that's not Modern Warfare, and B, trying to bring in the overwhelming popularity of Warzone to the Call of Duty League. And, like, I don't know if it did that yet. I think it might take, like, a few more tournaments or a few more, like, maybe mixing in players with traditional sports athletes or whatever you want to do. Again, like, I'm not the primary viewer for this. I could honestly care less, but I'm not who you need to get to watch, right? Like, you need to get people who really love watching Warzone to be like, hey, there's this competitive league with all of these, like, players in it that are really, really good. How about we watch that also? So, I mean, I don't know how successful it was. Like, you'd have to look at viewership numbers and, like, reaction on social media and stuff like that. I think people were talking about it. I think it would take, like, a few more tournaments just to see, like, what the overall impact of it was. But I think if they didn't, like, to our point last weekend, if they didn't try to capitalize on the popularity of Warzone with the CDL, like, that's just such a huge miss. So I'm glad that they are trying something like this. I think they should try it again. And it didn't feel as intrusive as hype battles. Maybe that's just my own personal bias.
No, you're totally right.
It really did not. It didn't feel like it was stopping the action, and then I have to sit through this thing that I, like, don't want to watch.
Well, and here's why. So, Arda, to that point, I liked it a lot. I hope that they do it again. I think what I heard feedback-wise was, I think they should have done a little bit better of a job of saying it was pre-recorded, because at least on that, very minor, but people seemed very confused. But here's the things I loved about it. People loved the Gulag 1v1s. They loved the snipes. Like, obviously we're talking about Paris because, as trolly as it was, it's a great talking point. It's a content point. But also, the thing I loved the most about it was that they did it an hour before the broadcast regularly starts. So you have this beautiful hour worth of content from, at least on the West Coast, from 12 p.m. Pacific to 1. It's great. It gets you warmed up, excited for the grand finals, excited for the semis, and then everything starts on time. So I think timing-wise, it's great. I'd love to see them continue to iterate upon it. And yeah, I liked it. I 100%, I'd like to see them do it again.
I'd like to see it live. I'd like to. I know that it might be more difficult, but I would love to see it happen live because I feel like that would add an excitement element. And to the Gulag point, there was a really good one. Was it Zuma or Attach? Faced Formal, and that was a lot of fun to see. Like that was like a marquee. It was Attached. It was Attached versus Formal, and it was like a marquee Gulag matchup. You know what I mean? It was almost like a wrestling match. Like it was really, really cool. Like I agree with you. That's a lot of fun. Like give me a lot of those 1v1s. But
I will say, Arda, though, I think here's the reason I wouldn't want to see it live. A, because the production issues that go into getting that many people into the private lobby, making sure everything across the board is synced up, et cetera, et cetera. When I was talking with players who were doing it the day of, they were waiting like 3 hours beforehand. So A, what does that do? That takes away from their scrimmage time before the event. They're also required to check in with the refs an hour and a half before the start time for their match. And it puts them in a different mindset from traditional competitive Call of Duty. Like Warzone, the guns, the movement, the positioning is totally different. So that would concern me too, at least in kind of a getting in the right mind space and warmed up for competitive COD as opposed to Warzone. Just before, I wouldn't want to see it beforehand or during, like after maybe, but not beforehand or during. Live, at least.
Fair enough. From the competitive integrity perspective, that's a very, very good point.
I just think the players would kind of be like, this is not the mindset I want right now. I want to be focused on my matchups. I don't want to be focused on like Warzone. I think they'd also very visually be having less fun.
Fair.
And if you do something like this, the really important thing is that you do get the buy-in from players. Like you do make sure that they're having fun and they actually like aren't being dragged to do something that is like they don't want to do.
But I love the idea.
So yeah.